All right. Welcome, everybody, to the 96 Person Bringer podcast. I am your host, Bryan Stoops. From the age of 7 until I was about 24, I was a magician in Southern California. Then, for the next 21 years, I focused on courting my wife, marrying my wife, raising our 2 children, intensely studying the martial arts, and being a professional educator. I started stand-up in 2020. I've had some interesting results since then. That brings us to the 96 Person Bringer podcast, where I have insightful hour-long conversations with my comedian friends. Wherever you are listening to this or watching this, if you can subscribe or follow and like the media, that is always helpful. All right, let's get to the good stuff. It's my genuine pleasure today to welcome to the podcast an authentic comedian friend of mine. He's been on several of my shows. The first segment is really dedicated to him talking more intensively about his background and what brought him to comedy. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Shubh Panda. Hi, Shubh.
How you doing, Bryan?
I'm doing very well. How are you today?
Doing all right. Thank you.
Excellent. Good. Well, I'm glad to have you on, and we're going to have a great time. So we spend up to the first 15 minutes of the show. You can take your time. You can talk about your background, how you got started in comedy, give us all that backstory, and then anything that you want to promote. We want to make sure that in this segment, we initially start talking about socials and how people can keep up with you, but we'll also remind all of our listeners and all of our viewers at the very end of the program where they can follow you. So, Shubh, you have 15 minutes. It's not like I'm going to flash a light at you, but that's just to keep us on target to have a show that's about an hour long. So take it away. Tell us about your background.
Yeah, I came to I grew up in India. I was born in India. I grew up in India. Everybody, it's very chilling, like at home also, even though we did not have a lot. We were not like super rich. Like people have the impression like everybody have maids at home, right? But we were not that rich to have maids. And but we did our tasks. My mom took care of most of the things. But eventually, my whole idea was to find a job. The whole work or the studying, everything in India is how you can get a job. Because without that, sports, arts, and other activities, it's not getting you a job. So your parents, they want you to have a better life than them, you know and sports, yeah, if you can be a good cricketer, which is only 11 to 12 people in the country, they make the millions and billions. But the whole idea, my parents were like, okay, you study. Even I got a guitar when I was in school. It's like, why you are spending time in the guitar? You should study more so that you can get a job. So that's what happened. Most of it is like homework, study, and I played outside games, activities, and everything. Then I got a job, and the company I was working for, they were here in US, and they were like, we have an opportunity for you. I'm a computer engineer, so we have an opportunity for you. Would you like to go to America? I'm like, I'm happy here. I'm making money. I'm enjoying. I don't want to go. So those are the days I was making money, started making a little bit money. And then
Sorry to interrupt. About how old were you during that time?
I'll say like 20, 24, 25. Yeah. And then I came here. I said, okay, the company said, if you don't like it, you can go back. And then I said, okay, all right. So I decided to come here, and then I stayed ever since. And work was going on, and then one time I was in Dallas, Texas. That's where I bumped into a comedy club. There is a good place called Deep Elm, which is like the center of the city. And I was hanging out there, and I bumped into the comedy club, and they were like, today we are sold out. I wanted to go see, because I never saw a stand-up comedy or any kind of comedy live. So I bumped into that. They're like, today we are sold out, you should come on a Tuesday. We can you can watch some. So the next Tuesday I went there. They put me in an improv group. Whoever were there people, they called them, they divided and put me in an improv group. So I was part of an improv group. I had no idea what the improv is. So I saw people going on stage, having fun. My team was called. I went there, and I just stood on the side, like both side of the stage. I just stood on the side. I could not go into the center of the stage to have a conversation or be in a scene or anything. I was sitting my pants, like what's gonna happen? Will I ruin everything if I go there? Everybody's laughing, so I don't want to ruin everything. It went on for like next 3 weeks. I just went there, and I just stood on the side. Eventually, somebody, one lady, she called me saying, "Hey, you, come here." So I was like, "Are you sure you want me?" So I went there, and something happened. We were driving a race car. She was driving a race car. I was driving a race car, and then it was a scene. So the lights went off. That's the first time I was on stage. And then I was like, okay, how difficult it is. I want to get to know more. So I took a class there for improv, and I made very good friends. One improv, everybody was zero in improv. I mean, though everybody was from here, they were not from a different country, but they were from here. They were speaking good English. For me, I have to do the lip reading first. Like, when I came to the country, I have to just do the lip reading. Okay, what are you talking about? Let me just hear from.
Sure. And real quickly, just so you're around 24 when you came over to the States initially. Were you in Dallas? Is that okay? So you were there, and that's where everything starts.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the classes started. I made good friends, and improv, like I was just looking forward to the improv class. It was good. So one after another, it went on for like 8 to 10 months, every week, 3 hours. And we had a group of around like 12 people. And during that time, like after 10 months, they had like 6 levels of classes. And after 10 months, like after 5 levels, I was like, well, I'm on stage with everybody. I want to be on stage by myself. Why it is so frightening? That is when I was like, okay, they had a stand-up class going on. I asked few of my improviser friends, let's get into the class. There was Chris and Emery. They joined, and we all three, we enrolled into a stand-up class. And now I did my stand-up class, and that's where everything started. It was like mid of 2019, and then the improv went on, and my friends, they moved out. Chris is doing great in San Francisco. He's a producer. Emery is in Alabama. He's doing great. He's a improviser. And for me, stand-up show happened. It went well because everybody was from my class. They were like, they've never seen me doing stand-up, so people were happy. And then I was like, okay, I want to do more, but still it's not sure like what to do next. And then in the end of 2019, I decided I want to go to New York. So I don't know, just like, I'll go. Why not? But the pandemic kicked in, and instead of New York, I was, before the pandemic started, I went to India, and then I was stuck there during the pandemic. And then I come back. When I come back, New York was not safe during 2021, end of 2021. It was not end of 2020. It was not safe. So I decided to go to Chicago. That's where I did some classes, did some mics, made some friends when the things opened up in in May of 2021. I was there. And then in the December 2021, I came to New York City, and I saw the vibe and everything. Then I went back again to India for a vacation. And then most of it is like April, May of 2022. Since then, I'm here in New York City. And my thing was, whatever I know there are shows which are, most of them are, like you said, bringer shows, and I did not know nobody, so it was very difficult to do the bringer shows. But what I saw in New York City is, to tell your thing, you don't there are so many mics, all around the city. Sometimes you have people, normal people at the mic, but still the repetition and everything, that's what happened. And I was just carried on with doing mics and putting my material together and everything. And um, the place that you saw me, Julius, that day he said it's a bringer. I said, okay, I've told my friends, And when the show happened, at that time, Julius asked me, like, where are your friends? I said, they're on their way. And then after 5 minutes, I said, well, I don't think my friends, two or three of my friends, they said they can't make it. So I told Julius, like, well, this has happened. So he said, all right, just wait here, we'll see. So at the end, he said, I'll give you 3 minutes. I said, all right, I'll take the 3 minutes. That's when, Bryan, I met you. I saw your show and everything. So yeah, this is what the comedy journey so far. And I'm just really happy and excited about things.
Awesome. Yeah, just so everybody, our listeners and our viewers, just a little bit of context. This is probably about a year ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, about a year ago. So Shubh and I met. The Drive-By Comedy Show is a show that Julius Carr, who I'm sure we'll eventually work our way to having on this podcast. Julius produces that show. It is a bringer show. And that's how I met Shubh. And then Shubh and I ended up in one of my first, we had a show in Pennsylvania. We ended up in a car together with one other comedian. I'm sure she'll end up on this show as well later. And then I've had Shubh on a couple other shows of mine since then, and just know him as a really funny comedian and a good guy. And that's kind of why Shubh is on the podcast today. So Shubh, where can people keep up with you as far as social media?
Most of it is on Instagram. And I have a link tree. I I recently joined on TikTok. I don't know what I'm putting there, but I'm putting some content there. But most of it is on Instagram.
Okay. And we'll, again, for all the listeners and all the viewers, in the description for both the podcast episodes and the video that'll go on YouTube, we'll make sure that we have Shubh's information. And so with Shubh, with the remaining time in this segment, I did have a question, and I don't even know if you know the answer. Is there like a stand-up scene in India, and were you even aware of it? I mean, prior to your experience, was that even a thing that was on your radar? Or does like all of this kind of start when you moved to the United States?
Yeah, that time there was no scene. There is like comedians from the movies,
Mm,
comedians. The Indian movies, they have comedians,
mhm.
and they have singers, dancers, fighters, everybody in this 3 hour movie.
Gotcha.
So those comedians, they did their show sometime on stage. That is the only kind of stand-up comedian that I was aware of, but not like the scene now what is happening.
Uh-huh.
But now it is much more and bigger. But I have never seen, like I was saying before coming to New York City, I had no idea about this scene, stand-up scene or stand-up comedy.
Great. Okay. So we're gonna end that segment and roll into our next segment. Again, the time frames are really just to make sure, a lot of comedians are always working on their hour or their next hour. I figure about an hour is a good length for an episode. 30 minutes is probably too short. Anything beyond that, sometimes people don't want to watch that. So we try to keep everything to about an hour. So the next question and the next series of questions, we're going to keep to about 5 minutes. Again, nobody's going to put you in podcast jail, Shubh. But this is like a general time frame. I'm not going to flash a light at you, but 5 minutes. Who are your comedic influences and what do they mean to you?
So when I came to this country, I watched, like I was saying, I was lip reading people, like what they're talking about. And for that, I watched Seinfeld, started watching Seinfeld.
Okay.
And for the 6 months, I was just reading the subtitles, like I was just reading the subtitles. I never got to watch it.
Yeah.
If I'm watching something, I'll miss it, like what they are talking about. So that's what happened. And I watched it again after few months, and sometime I enjoy it. And I'll say Larry David. I like the kind of George's character. Very silly things that I keep on doing in my life, like you know. So for that reason, I was like, okay, I was very much influenced by Seinfeld. Then the other sitcoms that I watched, and King of the Queens,
Mhm.
um, and most of it, the metaphors and everything. Sometime I get to watch Family Guy. That's where I get some, you know. And but the influences, like you said, I like Jim Gaffigan,
Mhm.
um, Kevin Hart,
Mhm.
Chris Rock, and Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Um, but watching now, it is very difficult. Now I don't get to watch a lot because end up doing mics and watching shows, and 3 hours. If you go to a show, you end up watching like 2 hours of show. Or if you are going to do two mics, it's like hours of watching, and after that it's very exhausting. So again, like I have a day job, so I have to focus on that also, and to watch again. Sometime I watch it, but I need to watch more. But this is what the out of comedian to influencers. Yeah.
Sure. And that, I think that balance is really hard to find sometimes, with the dad. I am also
Yeah.
a proud semi-professional comedian. I'm certainly not doing this for my primary income, and so balancing that can be really, really hard. So that's a really good point as far as that time. Then a mic or a show, like you say, I mean, it takes a lot of time. The time to travel to the gig, all the other comedians around, even if you're doing a 5 minute set, can take several hours out of your evening. Absolutely. So Shub, we're gonna roll along to the next question. And this is phrased the way it's phrased, just to try to draw something out of you. Doing stand-up is hard, right? So why do you do it? The attrition rate is very, very high. People try it, oh, I love this, and then a few months later they're gone. No disrespect to those people. We know that if this was easy, I mean, everybody would do it. So what motivates you, especially, I mean, you're you know, you really are, I'm not trying to be overly nice, you're a success story. You came from another country, you know, you're multilingual, you're thriving in the big city here. I mean, certainly you could be putting your energy into other things and probably being super successful in those areas. What is it about stand up? Like, why it's hard? Why do you do it?
I don't know. It's like the every living in the present. That's what I'll say. You know, I'm not thinking like too much into future,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not thinking too much into past. And just like, okay, I'm working on this thing, how to get this thing work, or maybe let's put this thing to rest and something else is there in my mind that I want to talk about. The reason being is what I realized once I got to hear from the other comedians and doing the mics and shows and watching everything. People people know India only from Slumdog Millionaire.
Right.
Okay. They don't know anything beyond that. Even if I ask my fellow comedians, okay, what do you think about, they'll they're lost. Like I asked my friend, tell me, name 10 vegetables that you have eaten in your life. They could not go beyond telling like bell pepper, carrot, and broccoli. Like,
Right.
can't even tell like 10 vegetable names. It is so difficult. So for me, is like how to even just tell that things, even if it doesn't go to a show.
Mhm.
Eventually, it will become a bit or something. But for now, I just want to tell this is the life there. This is what I grew up with, and this is how everybody, be it animals or human or nature, how everybody is connected and spiritually together. So in a way that it's not like something that I wanted to tell and then they don't get it. Like if I want to tell something about an elephant, they have seen an elephant in a zoo only.
Mhm.
Okay. Or if I want to tell about a monkey, they have seen a monkey in a zoo only. If I have to put a before, even if I want to talk about something, I have to tell about what is it. What is a what is a bottle gourd? You know, it's a vegetable.
Oh.
It's a very common vegetable in India. You know, there are funny things happens around eating food, buying food, going to farmers market. But if I go to farmers market, I can't tell always that I bought a bell pepper or a broccoli. I bought a bottle gourd. So I have to talk about what is a bottle gourd first to tell people like, okay, this is what it is. So for me, the difficult thing is to tell what it is first and then go to next if I want to talk something. And also what I have realized sometime, like, okay, people get it. Most of the jokes and the comedy, sometime I see it happens around, let's say, um, you talk about Jesus, people get it right away. You know, I grew up in India. We had like so many holidays, so many festivals and everything. I want to talk about something, you know, first nobody gets it because they first you have to tell who is that person first, you
Uh-huh.
know. And as soon as you start saying that, everybody, they don't get me, and there is not enough time to tell like who is that. So I'm trying to figure out a way that how to tell these things, which is which I don't see it people talking. There are other comedians, they do it, but my point is like, I was not born here, so for me, my things are most of it coming from there, and then I have things from here, so I have to mix it and try to tell my point of view. That is where I am. But like you said, what I'm working on is to tell people how to make them understandable. And then also, like Bryan, you and me, we did that 20-minute set in Philly, sorry, in Poconos.
Yes.
And then I did a 30-minute set after that. And there are some loose, some tight, but I'm putting together a 1 hour, even though it's loose and tight. Sometime if I get an opportunity, if I can stand and talk about it. So that is where it is.
Awesome. And I think, good for every comedian who's going to listen to this or watch this. If you want to talk about something where the majority of your audience doesn't have an orientation, you have to create that for them so that they can kind of access the humor. And I've seen Shubh do that, in multiple sets where he's setting the stage, here's my childhood in India. And then by the time he's ready to really dive in, the audience can kind of see it in their head. So I would imagine that's really useful anytime anybody of any background wants to talk about something where maybe the audience they're not familiar with that thing. So really important stuff. So Shubh, how would you describe your process for writing and sculpting and developing material over time? Everybody's got a different process. What does that look like for you?
So I watch shows, or I watch open mics, and then somebody said that made me laugh. So I was like, oh, somebody is talking about, let's say anything. It could be pizza. So what is a comparable thing with pizza in India? It could be, have you seen the samosa?
Say again?
Samosa, like the
Samosas. Yeah.
samosas, something like, which is a common thing. Okay, so I have something to talk about, a snack, which is a favorite snack. So I will make a note like, okay, this made me laugh. So I'll make a note of it, and then I keep it with me. And then whenever I get time, or when I'm sitting and writing, I will elaborate those things what I have made a note of it. And if that reminds me the story that I thought about earlier, and then put it in a note. And I put everything in a Word document. I used to maintain the notebook. And last year I had my notebook and my tripod and my phone charger, power charger, and everything. And I was at Black Cat, Lower East Side, for a mic, and I lost my bag.
Oh.
So yeah, so since then I stopped it, like, okay, no more notepad. So I'm putting everything in a Word document, like Google Docs.
Yeah.
And as and when, wherever I can access that, and I expand on that one, if at all. And then if there is a matching to stories, that, oh, this is something to with doing that. Because, for example, I'm giving you an example. For example, I had a story about, people ask me about, okay, you're talking about the animals. I've seen monkeys, crazy monkeys. Tell us a crazy monkey story. So there was no crazy monkey story for me, but still I put on things like, okay, got some info. I was talking to my mom and what she's doing every day, and monkeys are coming to my blog. So I put that thing together, monkeys, that I had it. And then I had a thing about going to the temple, like going to the temple, this happens, you come out and you lost your shoes, somebody took your shoes, then you have to get whatever shoe that you like. So that's what happened. And then I got to figure out there is a game, Temple Run. So Temple Run is the game where you steal an idol from a temple, and then you run, and while the crazy monkeys are chasing you, it's a never ending game because you keep on running. So I could see, I had a bit about temple, I had a bit about monkeys, though the monkeys that I dealt with, they're not that crazy. All they needed like fruits or bananas or something. But I put them together and I'm working on this, how to present it like Temple Run. So eventually if I write it, sometime they connect. So that is what I realized in after some time, like, okay, don't throw anything, things will get connected. So that is the writing process. There is nothing else that people talk about, blank paper and sit and write. I tried, it doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
I just, whatever things that I have it or noted, I was like, okay, let me put those stories. I don't have a punchline for everything. You have seen me.
Mhm.
Okay, this is making people laugh. So let me just keep it.
Mhm.
Punchline, sometime it will happen, or whenever it will happen, whenever I figure out what's the punchline, that will happen. But for now, maybe there are some punchlines where I have, but these are the stories that I'm putting together and removing flops so that can be better.
Awesome. Yeah, and so for all the listeners and viewers, just a couple takeaways because we've heard this a couple times. I think having your writing on a cloud-based app at this point is just super smart, because then, like Shubh said, hopefully you never lose your bag, but then that document just follows you everywhere. The idea that you don't want to throw anything out, because you never know when things are going to connect. So just keep your notes and keep everything going. Because you might surprise yourself. Oh, I wrote this thing a year ago, and now I'm only realizing that this is where this fits. So you don't want to throw anything out. And then I love the idea that there are no rules. So if you have a story and it's getting laughs, even if it's not in the regular setup punchline format, I mean, big deal. It's getting laughs. So you keep sculpting that, you keep playing with that. And I think that's a really positive way to approach your development of your material. That's great. So Shubh, would you describe something that you're working on right now in your comedy? And you can talk about multiple things. Is it a bit? Is it a skill? You mentioned TikTok. Is it marketing? Are you working on a certain length of material? Like what, and you've spoken to some of this, but like, what are you working on right now when you think about putting your energy into your comedy?
Like I was saying, remove I, after putting all these things in the Word document, not to there are some stories, some bits, some I'm working on. It's beyond like multiple pages. It become like more than 100 pages now, and I have to remove some of them. I was putting like best 10 minutes, best 30 minutes, and then best 60 minutes. Then I have to add best 90 minutes because it was just growing. And then a few weeks back, I was like, okay, no, this is not gonna do good. So I'm removing most of it, just putting like everything in like 60. So something which is not, I'm not doing it, or which is not getting that much laughter, which doesn't excite me, or this can go. So now there is a second document. So it become two documents now. One document is only 60 minutes. I'm not entertaining anything else beyond 60 minutes in that document. And beyond that, what I can move it out to my backlog. Okay, I have talked about it. It's a story. There's not many punchlines. I'm not able to connect. So that's where I am. Now it become two documents. And the major thing now, what we're working on is, this is the holiday season.
Mhm.
Holiday season for every culture out there, so not only in like Christmas, we have something similar, Diwali, and everything is coming.
Uh-huh.
Diwali, people know, okay, we light the lights, but what is the basis of it, where it comes from, why we celebrate, what do we do apart from lighting lights, what do we do? There's a lot of things, I can't talk about everything, but I want to tell a little bit of like, okay, we are celebrating where it starts.
Mhm.
And if we are celebrating, there is no what is this, what do we cook at home, what do we give it to people, you know most of the things that we serve or we invite or throw a party, most of them they involved around promoting vegetarianism, promoting holidays. Mainly holidays are about vegetables, fruits, flowers. These are the three things that you need in every holiday. Every day is a new holiday. So that's why, like, something happened, something similar. I'm trying to see how I can tell people, like, okay, uh, Diwali, what happened? I'm trying to compare something that I can tell this is what happened, who was the two people who fought, and one person win. The good defeated the evil. Who was the good? Who was the evil? I have to compare that with, like, characters. Like, can I use this character, that character? Can I use Trump? Can I use Biden? Can I use, something like that, so that people can get it, even though they don't get to know more or detail, which I can't. People get lost. So that is my struggle now. With the holidays are coming, I put few things together. You might have heard it, and I want to expand on that so that it can be. I can present it better. That is there. And apart from that, what is the other thing you asked?
Any other like marketing or any other aspect to your whole comedy package?
So I've been hosting. I'm living in Bushwick area in Brooklyn, and I'm very thankful to this comedy club here, which is called TinyCupboard. And last year, exactly 16th of October, they let me host a mic there. So every Tuesday 10 p.m. I'm hosting the mic there, and I call it Pandemonium. And I've been promoting that. I see people coming to the mic. People know about the mic, and yeah, that is the one. And sometime or someday I want to make it a show. That is the goal. So we'll see. I'm not thinking again about that time, that night right now, but it will happen someday. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And that's another reason to do stuff like this. I had no idea you were hosting a mic, so I got to get down there at some point and participate. So that's great.
Yeah,
And we'll get that information as well in the description for this episode so that people can participate. That's another benefit of having you on. Okay. So would you, and again, some of these there's overlap, but would you describe any positive milestone in your comedy experience? And you can obviously speak to more than one. It's your time, however you'd like to spend it.
can you explain what is that you said?
Sure. So something that was positive, that strikes you as like, man, this was a real positive moment, that's like a standout moment. You achieved something, you reached a new level, you like maybe you performed somewhere for the very first time, or you felt like you achieved some goal or some mini goal, something that was positive in that direction.
Yes. So yeah, I most of the shows are bringer shows that around the city. Thank you, Bryan, for creating this space where you are giving opportunity to people. And I did a class at the one of the classes in the city, and then they did a show in the Gotham Comedy Club, and they gave us the lineup, and I was, like, excited about it, but there are so many people because of the Gotham comedy. And when I in my lineup, when my name was there, I was ready, like, okay, memorizing my shit and what I gonna do and what after what, because you have to stick to the time and everything.
Right.
So I was ready with that. And they called, we have a celebrity drop in today, and give a clap for Jim Gaffigan. So Jim Gaffigan came and he did a 20-minute set. And then I was totally lost. I had no clue what I want to talk about. When you initially do it, like, okay, I'm gonna talk this bit, this bit, this bit, this bit. That is there in your mind.
Right.
And then by that time he left and they called my name. I was happy that to see Jim Gaffigan and I was going after him, but it was a big stake. So what will happen? Will I able to deliver? But that was a big moment. That is when another thing happened, like you were saying, why you do it. I had no idea coming from India to do the show in Dallas, and now Jim Gaffigan is going in front of me, before me. So that was the milestone, like, okay, maybe I want to do it more. I want to come back here again, or something like that, not thinking again too much, but also like that was changed, like, okay, I want to do it. I want to be in the New York scene. So that made me thinking about that time I was living in Dallas. So that made me thinking about coming to New York City, even though there is little bit of things that I'm saying, I want to present it on the big show or the big city. Why not? So yeah, that is one. And then the positive things happen every day. I will say almost every day. The fellow comedians or my friends, they come talk about something which I thought in my mind, like, oh, talking about your dad, talking about your mom, talking about your family, talking about your pet, it's not funny. But that motivates me. Wow, this can be funny. Just talking about a normal sandwich, this can be funny. So my evolve is like, okay, everything can be done in a better way or a certain way. It can be funnier. So like you said, it's a everyday thing. Positive things happen every day, and I'm very positive in every situation. Like, why are you, even somebody's not around there, I was like, okay, there is something positive about it, there is something good about it. So with that, but yeah, it's happening almost. And then the milestone, what happened with the 20-minute that we did, I never did 20 minutes in what we did at Poconos.
Right.
And they had a block party here in Bushwick. It was a open in a garden block party. They got to know I'm a comedian, and they're like, we want you to talk something. So I did a 30-minute set here for my blog and everything. And then with that, I got to go to Syracuse to do another 20-minute set recently. So yeah, those are the ones.
That's awesome. Those are great. Absolutely great. And you're already on the podcast. I asked you to be here. Shubh, something that always stands out for me about you is you are typically in a really good mood, and you're really positive, and it's really easy to be around you. And so like having you on a show is usually a positive experience, because that's just kind of how you conduct yourself. So, like guard against that, make sure you don't lose that. Sometimes I think it's really easy to go in the other direction. That's just something I've always noticed about you. That's like an additional benefit of you being professional and working really, really hard on this. Like you're always, not that you have to be, but like you typically are in a really good mood and really positive in general. So, make sure you protect that. And I hope I don't sound too condescending. It's just
Thank you.
yeah, I've noticed about you, as we've interacted with each other. Okay, so kind of going then in the opposite direction, describe a time that you learned an important comedy lesson by having a negative experience.
Negative experience. Oh yeah. So I said bring our shows, right?
Yeah.
There was a show at the what is it? Stand Up NY.
Okay.
I reached out to the booker. She is kind enough most of the time. I mean, all of the times she's kind enough. So she said, I have a friend coming to the city, and I have two friends coming to the city, and I'm gonna put my poster and try to bring some more people. Would you be able to give me? I'm working on some new and I want to present it. So she said yes. So I posted, did everything possible, and my friends, they could not make it because their flight canceled, whatever. So nobody was there. But I was there. She asked me, the booker asked me about where are your friends. I said they got stuck. They could not make it. So that day I did not get the stage time. Okay, there was no stage time for me, and it is totally fine. I understand, so I'm not saying that, but at the same time, again, the negative experiences are, I don't know, this could be a negative experience, but I had no negative thoughts after that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying, everything converting into a positive thing. Okay, all right, so this did not happen. I did not get a stage time, no problem. So maybe someday I'll get friends, I can do the show again, and meanwhile let's go back and work on the material. So that is what happened. I don't know if this could be a example of a negative experience, but that's what I can think. And the other one, the Julius one, so he's like, well, not 5 minutes, but you will get 3 minutes. So that is kind of, there are, both sides are there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have somebody, still you are getting some stage time, and if you don't have somebody, you are getting bumped off. So it's there is a equality. I don't know what I'm saying, but all I'm saying is positive things are there everywhere.
No, I think that's great. And for everybody who maybe doesn't understand New York City comedy bringer culture, it can be very, very frustrating at times because and I'm really just focusing on guests kind of at a very similar level to myself. I mean, I'd love to have famous guests on this at some point because I like my questionnaire. I think it's a good questionnaire, but right now I'm just asking my friends. And I'm not from New York City. I'm from, Eastern Los Angeles County, and I can only have my wife and kids go to so many shows, so it's hard. I mean, I have some friends out here, but it's the usual kind of thing. It's they get worn out, and it can be really, really challenging. So I think your mindset seriously is a really good mindset to have, because at the end of the day, I mean, maybe you're exactly right. Maybe you weren't, this might be too zen for people, but maybe you weren't supposed to do that set, or maybe you were supposed to do a shorter set. Because I remember the show, Julius's show, I mean, you went up and you did 3 minutes and you crushed. And that's why you got the booking where we ended up spending way more time together. And I mean, so it's all about perspective. I think is a great takeaway and a great lesson for everybody. So I like your perspective very, very much. And I know some people would be like, well, maybe you both look at the world too much through rose-colored glasses. And it's like, well, what business is that of yours? Like, my perspective is my perspective. If you want to be miserable, go and be miserable. And 9 times out of 10, Shubh, I agree with you. It's better maybe to just try to find some perspective.
I mean, not everything is in your control. You can control the things only you can. So
that's great. That is like, I think, so much a healthier way to look at things and think about things. All right, we are going to roll along. So aside from maybe fame and monetary success, making a lot of money, would you describe what your dream comedy legacy would look like when you think about really making an impact on comedy?
the things I was telling you earlier is, I haven't thought about the future and everything, a lot, legacy and everything. But what I wanted is, if I'm talking something, or if it's a good set or a thing that I'm presenting after, I want people to, even if sometime I get a laughter, sometime I'm not, I want it people to think about things, you know, even when they leave the theater, leave the club, they should think about things. The very positive thing, what I hear, like I I talk about the cows. You know, cows are like the dogs or the pets for us. We worship the dog also. We worship the cow also. Worship in a sense like loving the animals. Okay. So I had a bit about the cows, and I was talking, and then uh, somebody watched the show, and they sent me message like I was in a different countryside or different city, or in Hawaii or somewhere, and I got to see the cows, and you came to my mind, and just to let you know. And then they send me messages sometime again saying, because of your bid, I haven't eaten the cow in like last 4 or 5 months. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm not saying you should not be eating or not, but I'm glad that you thought about things beyond taking off from the comedy club, you know. So that is where, even if not for the everybody, and like you are telling a joke, it's, you're not making you don't expect everybody to be on board, you know, everybody to laugh. At least for some people, they can connect, they can think about it. That is where I think the way it is going, like people are ignorant, people do not have the knowledge, or they never read about it or know about it. So if it comes to them, so for example, I'm working on something like vegetables scare Americans. Like some people, they don't want to be near a broccoli.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Like it's the same thing. Like I was working on, like, if I'm getting a cheese pizza, right, cheese slice, that's my favorite because it's fresh, they are rolling it every time. And I don't want my cheese pizza to be next to a pepperoni pizza. It's like the same thing, you don't want your food to be next to a broccoli. So something like that. It's yeah, that's what I'm like, okay, how it made me laugh, but how to present it now. So that is the thing that I'm more thinking about it. Okay, how to make people at least think about, like, okay, I talked something. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, when I do material about my wife and kids, you know, I light up in a way that's different than when I talk about anything else. And like, as I'm talking with you and I'm thinking about all the time I've seen you do on stage, I mean, yeah, you really do a really unique, excellent job of presenting things from your culture and really setting that up. And I really admire that. And then I'm very much of a mind with you, because I'm doing some longer sets in some festivals, and like I'm working on my hour, and I'm going to be presenting that, you know, in more places than just, I've done that a few places. I'm going to be presenting at a few more places, and I'm always writing something in the description like, I want to send my audiences away, you know, hurting from laughing, but I also want them to know something about me that they take away. So I really like that. I seriously like the idea. Yeah, we want to kill. We want them to laugh. You know, we want to be good at what we do in the comedy arena, but then I also I want them kind of like, I want it to be an experience. I want them thinking about some of the things. They're not going to remember all the bits, you know, but I really like that idea. And I know you're not advocating for vegetarianism, but that's, I mean, that's incredible, man, that you're getting, hey, you really made me think about that. And that's not at all, because I've seen that bit multiple times. That's not at all the branding. You're just kind of sharing
Right.
your cultural perspective. So that's really something, Shubh.
Thank you, Bryan.
Yeah. Okay. We're in the end game here. So we have 10 minutes and we don't have to, I mean, we can certainly take the 10 minutes. Again, we're trying as a whole to keep everything to roughly an hour, but we're going to wrap things up. You can remind everybody again, social media handles. If you have things like your open mic or any other upcoming shows, this is the place to plug them. And I'll also make sure that the text is there in the description. And so we have 10 minutes to just kind of round out our conversation, Shubh. So again, where can people find you if you want to give us specific handles on social media?
Okay. I'm on Instagram. You can search for Shubh Panda or Spaandaa. And Panda is my family name, and it's not a stage name. And I'm working on the link tree now so that people can get the show details, because I am getting some shows, but also to tell like when is the next. So I'm working on that. The link tree you can see on my Instagram, and on Linktree I have links to my 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and 20-minute sets on YouTube. So if you want to go see any of my sets, you can see that on YouTube, that is there. And yeah, those are the things. And then I'm hosting this mic pandemonium, and I every Tuesday 10 p.m. it's a late night mic here in Brooklyn and Bushwick at the TinyCupboard. And someday I'm trying to see how to take it to the next stage, or what to do with the mic to make it a show or whatnot. But also at the same time, even if I was asked by friends, people, like why I don't produce a show. I did some last year, and then it's Bryan, you're doing amazing. It's not an easy thing, putting a show together. And that is like a extra skill, separate skill, more time, more effort, a lot. So I did few. I was like, no, this is a lot, so let me focus on putting some material together, and then I can come back to the show again, and we'll see. So that's what it is there. But meanwhile, creating the material and going to places. Yesterday, I was there at New Jersey. First time I performed in New Jersey. It's it's called Gotham Comedy Club. It's a whiskey distillery, and it was fun. A good time, good moment.
How much time did you do and how to go?
I did 12 minutes.
Right.
And it went well. It went well. And yeah, that's what. By the time I reached home, like tomorrow, I have the podcast for the first time. I need to go to sleep early, but everything. I was still like worried, like, okay, what is gonna happen? I've seen people asking about if you want to be on the podcast and all. I've been like, okay, let me. It's a similar thing when I wanted to do the stand up. Can I do it, or is it what it's going to be? So something similar. You made it like, okay, we're gonna talk about things and all. I was like, okay, will I be doing it? And I was, as the time was coming, until you asked me at the whiskey cellar, I was not giving you a time, right? So I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? What is gonna talk about? And when the day came close, I'm like, okay, let's do it. So that's what happened, and I was ready with it. And
And
yeah,
this has been a great conversation, Shubh. This is serious. I said the same thing to Val. Val was my first guest. This is exactly what I wanted out of this conversation. You and I have known each other a bit. We've done some shows together. We had some milestone shows together. The show in the Poconos was the first time that I ever hosted a show. And I was super like jazzed, and your behavior indicates to me you think I did a somewhat decent job.
you did great, Bryan. Yes.
So that always kind of stuck with me. So, I hope I'll share this in kind of a discreet way. Shubh did, it's a monthly show that I've inherited at the Whiskey Cellar. I mentioned it in the previous episodes. It's always the third Sunday of every month at 6 p.m. And I have to have so many guests there buying drinks in order for the establishment to let us have the show. But we do it where we don't charge guests ticket price. They just buy their drinks. And in that way, I hope it's a very fair environment. And Shubh did that show, the last one that we had last weekend, and Shubh pulled me aside at one point and said, I want to acknowledge that you've put me on all these shows and I'm not producing yet. And I had to interrupt Shubh and just tell him, look, man, whenever I book you for a show, I know you're going to show up. I know you're going to be positive. I know you're going to be on time. I know you're going to bring it. And even if the audience doesn't respond to you, it's not going to be because of any lack of preparation, because I know how seriously you take this. And so Shubh was just kind of alluding to this, like, Shubh, you start producing when you feel ready, man, it'll be fine. And like, I'm sure it'll be a huge success, like everything you're involved with, because you don't half-ass anything. That's not who I know you to be. So I hope it's okay that I shared that. And like, we had that very nice conversation, and that was a conversation between the two of us. It didn't have anything to do with anybody else. And I'm delighted that you like got over, and I understand 100%. It's all the stuff that you can't know until you do it one time, and then you've done it and you're like, oh, why was I worried about that? But I'm 45 years old. I continue to have those experiences where, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I'm filled with anxiety. And then I go and do the thing and I'm like, that was really great. But I'm sure I'll feel the same way. So, thank you for agreeing to be on here. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bryan. I was able to, because it was there in my mind, let me tell. So I told that, and I feel better. But thank you for having me. I had fun. Talking. Yeah. I could not ask you many questions because I was like, okay, let's see what I have to talk. But this was.
Well, this format is really focused on you.
Okay.
So I have my stupid first episode where I'm my own guest, only so people can see the format. And then every other episode, I have these questions in this order with this much time. And this is the one part where I'll pat myself on the back. I think they're good questions. Yeah. And I get to sit down with my comedian friends and have a conversation. So you were perfect. This was great. It wasn't your job to ask me questions. I've already done my sample episode. This was my opportunity to talk with you. And I had a blast, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, when you said it's a conversation, oh, you are only asking me. I'm not asking you how it's a conversation. But anyways, now I understand. Like, okay.
Well, it's a one-sided conversation.
I got it. I was laughing at it. Like, okay. Doing it was fun. It was fun. I loved it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to wrap things up, everybody. Again, in the description for both the podcast only version and the YouTube with the video version of this excellent episode, we'll make sure that you have all the Shubh's information. Shubh, I want to thank you for being on again. This was exactly what I wanted, and I'm glad you had a good time. And I'm glad you agreed to do the episode. And this will be available. I like to make this available noon on Monday. So according to my calculations, we're looking at the 23rd, Monday the 23rd at noon is when this will drop. And in the meantime, Shubh, thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bryan, for having me on the show. I enjoyed.
It was a pleasure. Thanks again. All right. Take care, everybody, and join us on our next episode of the 96-Person Bringer podcast. This was our awesome guest, Shubh Panda. I am your host, Bryan Stoops. Until next time, everybody.